The Center, with your host, DC Radical One.
Greetings, Black family, and welcome to On the Wake Up Radio. I am your host, DC Radical One, and you have entered the center. Shout out to our wonderful producer, Cindy Ashby. You can check us out on SoundCloud, YouTube, iTunes Podcast, Google Play, Stitcher, Spotify, and iHeartRadio at On the Wake Up Radio. More important than all that, you can check us out at onthewakeupradio.com. That's onthewakeupradio.com. And also at otw2.com. That's otw2.com. First of all, let me know that y'all can hear me, because I had a technical issue earlier and had to change computers. So I want to make sure that I'm coming through clear. BB for ODA to Spirit, Mind, Character, Soul. What's up to Lord Vale, BB for ODA and Straight Black Pride to Brother Elijah. Greetings to Brother Lance, and greetings to Unique One Express and Straight Black Pride to Sister Nina, and greetings to Sister Simone. Okay, coming through loud and clear. All right, cool. So I'm gonna tell y'all this, and it could be nothing. You never know. In fact, today's subject matter means it could be something. So earlier, before maybe a couple of hours ago, I was putting together something small. It's even smaller now. And then suddenly my computer just started acting crazy and in essence was under attack. So what I first had put together for this, it's gone with the wind. And so we are going to have a discussion, and I have a basic outline and framework for that discussion, and we're going to just go from there. The discussion will probably not be as deep due to the fact of the erasure of the previous documentation, but it is what it is. I just found it ironic because of the discussion that we're going to have today, which is, of course, do Black people need leaders? So, but before we get to that, Saturday, March 19th, which is 2 weeks from yesterday, I believe, we are having it should be our 6th annual Dr. Cress Welsing Day. I think when I started thinking about it, I think we missed 2020. I think it's kind of our 5th, but to me, it's our 6th annual. Dr. Cress Welsing Day Celebration. And then, of course, someone that most of you all know very well will be giving a lecture presentation, The Death and Rebirth of the Goddess Black Woman. I'll be doing that myself. Tickets are $20. They're available via Eventbrite. That $20 is either for the live stream or in person. And I'll say that if you're in the Washington, D.C. area, Prince George's County area, and you're coming live, you want to get your live tickets now. I believe that the link is in the description. If the link isn't in the description, I put the link in the description after the show. And the location, this is important, is at our new SBPM Headquarters, which is at 6490 Lando Road, Suite A1, Cheverly, Maryland, 20785. So for those who didn't check the last show, we do have a new headquarters. That is the location, and most of our events will be at that facility. Because that facility is smaller than Everlasting Life, which can, if you use all the chairs and all the corners and squeeze everybody in, can seat about 100 people. The seating capacity of the current facility is a fraction of that. So if you're coming live, you want to get your tickets now. You don't want to wait to the last minute, which people tend to do. And then people say, oh, ran out of live tickets, or I came all the way, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. If you ever done anything organization wise, you know how this works. You know how Black people are with that. But I definitely appreciate the support. If you have especially if you have a younger sister, relative, cousin, you definitely want to bring them out for this. This is something that they will learn from very much. I've done this presentation, I think 3 times. I've literally had sisters, they were so affected emotionally, break into tears. And I wasn't sure because, of course, I was on the stage, but I could see the reaction of the sisters. So hopefully they found healing and understanding in that presentation. This year's presentation, of course, even though I put the same title on it, every time I do it, it's a little bit different, because things change with time. And so if you, I don't, in fact, the first one wasn't fully filmed. Only the first half was filmed. So unless you're part of SBPM, no one has seen all of the complete lecture in its current form, because, like I said, each time it's different. So with that, I'm trying. Oh, and I didn't load that up, but also we're gonna have a new schedule with what is going on at the new facility. Brother Genie, he said he sent me he emailed me the new schedule, but it will be on Monday, Friday, and Saturday. So the Monday will be like the standard chopping it up that used to be an everlasting life for those who used to attend. Except that it'll be at the new facility at the SBPM headquarters. So that still is taking place every Monday. And I believe the time for that is 6 o'clock. That's free. Friday night is a movie night. You're doing movies and documentaries every Friday night. I think this past Friday, I think they did the movie They Live. If you've never seen the movie They Live, you talk about relevant. And it was funny, it's a science fiction movie. So you're asking me right now, if you haven't seen it, how's a science fiction movie relevant? Trust me. If you see it and you see it with somebody that knows what's going on, or if you see it and you know what's going on, you'll be able to see it immediately. It'll be right in your face. The movie's about maybe 35 years old, something like that. It was made sometime in the 80s. And where it stars the former wrestler Roddy Piper and Keith David. And so if you haven't seen that movie, that's a good movie just to see. But that was the movie that was shown Friday, I believe. Each Saturday, the subject matter will be Zionism and the New World Order. Brother Genie usually leads that class and breaks that down. So if I put it like this, if there's someone who's more of a scholar in that area than him, I haven't met the person. And Spirit, Mind, Character, Soul says 1988. Okay. What did I say? 87. So I was in the ballpark. But yeah, that's one of my favorite movies. They Live. Thank you for that, sister. So now that we have gotten the announcements out the way, and for some reason, the last hour or so, probably because I was in somewhat of a panic mode with the computer situation, I've been fighting mightily, dry mouth and thirst. But BB40 and Straight Black Pride to Brother Desaline, my good brother. And also, I am going to, I don't know if I said this, I am now going to go ahead and edit and make available and probably make some physical copies of the Dr. Khaled lecture, Africa versus Everybody, the Hidden Enemies. Everyone that saw it said it was outstanding. The footage was good enough, I believe, that it can be distributed. I'm gonna have someone edit it. If perchance they tell me that it's not good enough, then I will I'll let you know. But after looking at it a couple of times, I felt comfortable with it. You all know me. If you've been following me for a long time, you know the lectures are done in person. They may never be seen again. This we are this time I am taking a new approach. You know what? One thing I realize is that we have to the information that we have and we put out stuff and we do work. Many times you're not thinking about it in the moment, but what you put out may not be for the generation that you're a part of. It may be for the next generation. And I feel like that information was so necessary in this time and moving forward that it's worth trying to distribute as widely as possible. I have a thought to redo the first part, because that's the second part. And I have a thought to redo and refilm the first part again. I haven't made a decision on that. So, with that being said, let's get into tonight's discussion. All right. It says, do Black people need leaders? And I was hoping, because I saw somebody respond on my Instagram, and I was hoping they would show up because it's a discussion. And they were, how people respond, and then people respond where someone, and my phone keep giving me notifications, and I'm trying to turn the thing. I thought I had silenced it. Excuse me for that. But then someone comes and they type in all caps. So in essence, they're yelling, digitally yelling, and I'm always like, okay, well, cool. If you feel that strongly about it, come through and let us know what you think. So that's what I was hoping had happened. I don't see someone that I can identify. I didn't actually know the person. And that's something on the internet that always happens. Someone has a very strong opinion, and there's always somebody you don't know, you've never seen them before, and then usually they don't show up for the discussion, or they do show up and they just don't have anything of any quality information to present or bring to the table. They usually just come to cause confusion. So I'm not sure what that person's motivation was. It was interesting. I was looking forward to seeing them come through. So, as y'all know, anytime that I do something, I like to do definitions. So we're going to start with definitions. What is a leader, right? This will tell us yes or no on this question. We have to figure out what it is. And the reason I do definitions is so that everyone is on the same page about what we mean when we say something, because the English language is very weird and words have multiple meanings. And then sometimes those meanings have multiple meanings. And before you know it, you have a bunch of confusion. So these definitions came from Merriam-Webster Dictionary.com and the last one from myself. So leader, noun, a person or thing that leads, right? What's the key word in that? It says a person or thing that leads. I found that interesting just looking at it. I was like, oh, a thing that leads. Interesting. Then it says a guiding or directing head, as of what? An army, movement, or political group. Third, a person who has commanding influence or authority. And last, that what we tend to think of as the head of an organization, right? That's what we tend to think of. Now we're going to go back through each one of these again and really break them down. And Brother Lance says, personally, I think so, because without some sort of leadership, you don't have any kind of structure. That is a key point that I'm getting to, right? So the second definition is very interesting to me. It says a guiding or directing head, as of an army, movement, or political group. Now, here's a question, and y'all tell me yes or no in the chat. Are Black people at or in a war? Y'all answer that in the chat. If we are in a war or at war, just put a Y. If not, just put an N. I'll be waiting here for the responses, right? And then it says movement or political group. Now, if we study historically, right, have we had any movement, any political group, which means a group that's dealing with or administrating power? That's what a political group is. Or any type of army since we've been here. And if we had those things, or if we didn't have them and we need those things, then at some point we will need leaders. Because here's the thing. Every time I ask the question, and this time when I ask the question, I put up plural. We're going to talk about why people say that we don't need a leader in a minute. But for this discussion, I put up plural. Now, everybody agrees so far, everybody that has responded. I got 2 Y's, a yes, we're at war at all directions, and a we have been at war since our ancestors were kidnapped. So we have a consensus from everyone who has responded that yes, we are at war. Or a better way to put it, to be completely honest, is, war is being made upon Black people. So if war is being made upon us, and one of the first aspects of war is deception, then that means that people would need a what? Guide in order to keep them from being deceived, so that you don't what? Fall victim to the war. Is that right? So Black people in America, for I would say the last approximately 35 years, have had access to more guns than we've had in the 60 years before that. Right? More weapons are have been manufactured and are manufactured here and are here in America than any other place in the world. Black people have had access to those guns. Has that benefited us in any way, shape, or form? Yeah, y'all can answer below. And if it hasn't, why not? Right? Because we all have agreed, hey, we are and have been at war for some time. One of the things that you do when you've been at war is you arm yourself, right? But the guns have been pointed in the wrong direction. We've been shooting ourselves more than we've been shooting our enemies. I know, I've lived through most of it. Why? Because we did not have enough guiding or directing heads as of an army, movement, or political group. It's very simple. Now, if you look at a society, right? Every society on earth, right? When we talk about a leading or guiding head, that starts not at the level of government, but it starts at the level of the home. In most societies, that person is the male of the household, the father, etc. In some societies, and usually only African societies, it may be a matriarchal structure, right? In a true African sense, it is really a balance where different roles are played in the form of mayat. But the person having the greater knowledge, which is usually the man, because usually the man will be older and have more life experience than a woman, that man will be the leader of the family, but the woman would then be the leader of the children. So it's filtering from her, from him to her through the children. If that system, which is the African system we've had in place for millions of years, is broken down and you remove a cog out of it, you suddenly have a breakdown in leadership. And that's where we've been for the last 40 years. The constant assault on the man got to the point where it broke us. I contend, and y'all can disagree, I contend that they broke the family and stopped the reproduction of leadership. And this is the point of delineation time-wise. I make it at the passing of Dr. Khalid Abdul Muhammad in 2001. We have not had effective national leadership since 2001. We have not had what? A guiding or directing head as of an army, movement, or political group. If you are, and brother, you got ripped off, is not in here, but he asked me a question. I'm going to do a video for his question. In 1989, 88, 87, 91, in that area, right? When people of my generation generally got knowledge, you had Minister Farrakhan, and underneath him, Khalid Muhammad. You had Amos Wilson, Dr. John Henry Clark, Dr. Ben, Del Jones, Ishaka Musa Barashango, Dr. Francis Cress Welsing, Mama Marimba Ani. And these are just some of the people who were alive at that time. You had various organizations of various types, UNIA sections, different religious nationalist groups, so forth and so on, right? The atmosphere was different because the number of leaders and institutions were more numerous and stronger, right? So I say that to say no one in 1987, 1988, 89, 90, 91, 92, 93, 94, 95, the discussion was never had of whether or not we need leaders. You know why? Because we had them. Right? It was never a discussion of do we need them, because we had them. And because we had them, we didn't discuss whether or not we needed them, right? Unique One Express says we've been so gullible and misguided as a collective and so divided that many of us don't consciously know who our opponents are. Oh, of course not. Because the enemy is not going to tell you. Here's the thing that people forget. When the declaration of war from the Pope was made, because there was a declaration of war. And if you've seen my Africa versus Everybody lecture, you know what I'm talking about. I can't remember the exact treaty right now. But there was a declaration of war made by the Pope against Black people, against what they called Saracens, which were Muslims, some of which were Black people, and pagans, which under their definition was Black people. When that declaration of war was made, a copy wasn't sent out to all Black people. Why? Because if so, we would have read it and understood that, oh, we got a fight on our hands. So the enemy makes war with you. He doesn't have to give you a copy of a treaty or a declaration of war. You know him when you see him. But because we don't have the knowledge of self, we don't know when we see him. We think we're the problem. I contend that if you don't identify an enemy, you will think you are your own enemy and attack yourself. And that's the condition we're in. Right? Now, why do we now in the 21st century think that we don't need leaders? I contend this person on the right and this program on the left are the reasons why we say we don't need leaders. What is one of the arguments that you hear people say when you say we don't need leaders, right? If we appoint a leader, they'll just kill him. Well, where did that idea come from? J. Edgar Hoover and his counterintelligence program said that they need to prevent the rise of the Black Messiah, who could unify and electrify the masses. In fact, hold up. Do I have that? Give me a second. I thought I had that. All right. Hold on. All right. Give me a second. All right. Let me see. Every now and then you forget, and I forgot. So y'all gonna have to forgive me. I forgot that I had this. And so I'm going to see if I can load it up because I forgot. So we see it, J. Edgar Hoover. We see the counterintelligence program. We're going to actually read from J. Edgar Hoover's counterintelligence program. Before I do, Spirit, Mind, Character, Soul says a leadership council is necessary. Some of us need leadership development, while others need to be refined in order to implement viable strategies and logical delegation of responsibilities. That was so beautifully said, sister. Can I put that on the screen? Hold on. Y'all gotta forgive me. Bam. All right, here it is. Hopefully, you don't mind me making you famous here. Says a leadership council is necessary. Some of us need leadership development, while others need to be refined in order to implement viable strategies and logical delegation of responsibilities. Thank you for that. You made history because you are the first person whose quote I put on the screen on any of my shows. Thank you. That was outstanding. And Sister Simone says every leader that we had has been, I think you're saying, attacked in all ways. I think the fear has brought more doubt in leaders than the actual understanding of God we need as people. Exactly. It's the fear. Repeat that part. The fear is the problem. You know what? I'm going to put that up. I hope you don't mind I put that up. I didn't mean to make people famous, but hey, y'all shouldn't have good quotes if you didn't want to go on the screen. Let's put this up. It says every leader we've had has been attacked in all ways. I think the fear has brought more doubt in leaders than the actual understanding of guys we need as people. Thank y'all for that. Those are two beautiful contributions. Now, we're going to bring up the COINTELPRO papers. And we're going to go through it. Just some of it, not the whole thing. Now, it says, number one, in this section, prevent the coalition of Black militant, I'm having reading issues. And no, I have not had any Remy Martin as they take over the top of the screen. Says prevent the coalition of militant Black nationalist groups. In unity, there is strength. a truism that is no less valid for all its triteness. An effective coalition of Black nationalist groups might be the first step toward a real Mau Mau, aka Black Revolutionary Army, in America, the beginning of a true Black revolution. Again, this is a threat assessment by J. Edgar Hoover's counterintelligence program on the revolutionary potential of Black people, right? Let's go to number 2. Prevent the rise of a Black Messiah who could unify and electrify the militant Black nationalist movement. Malcolm X might have been such a Messiah. He is the martyr of the movement now. Martin Luther King, Stokely Carmichael, and Elijah Muhammad all aspire to this position. Elijah Muhammad is less of a threat because of his age. King could be a very real contender for this position should he abandon his supposed obedience to white liberal doctrines, aka nonviolence, and embrace Black nationalism. Carmichael has the necessary charisma to be a real threat in this way. Number 3, prevent what? Violence on the part of Black nationalist groups. This is of primary importance and is, of course, a goal of our investigative activity. It should also be a goal of the counterintelligence program to pinpoint potential troublemakers and neutralize them before they exercise their potential violence. And I haven't even gone down any further. Okay. And it says, number 4, prevent militant Black nationalist groups and what? Leaders. And what? Leaders. What does it say here? Leaders from gaining what? Respectability by discrediting them to 3 separate segments of the community. The goal of discrediting Black nationalists must be handled tactfully in 3 ways. You must discredit those groups and individuals to, first, the responsible Negro community. Second, they must be discredited to the white community, both the responsible community and to quote unquote liberals who have vestiges of sympathy for militant Black nationalists simply because they are Negroes. Third, these groups must be discredited in the eyes of Negro radicals, the followers of the movement. The last area requires entirely different tactics from the first 2. Publicity about violent tendencies and radical statements merely enhances Black nationalists to the last group. It adds respectability in a different way. And lastly, let's move down. It says a final goal should be to prevent the long-range growth of militant Black organizations, especially amongst youth, especially amongst youth. Specific tactics to prevent these groups from converting young people must be developed. And I believe I'm going to stop there. Right? Those are the plans of the enemy from the late 60s. How many of us think that those plans have completely changed and been completely thrown out of the window? Right? So there's an old saying, or there's a thought in football, and let me know y'all can still hear me. And the thought is, you do something until they stop it. Though the counterintelligence program no longer exists in name, and J. Edgar Hoover is dead, we've seen that there's been a government directive documented to stop Black leaders from gaining respectability. And J. Edgar Hoover said, and I'm a paraphrase, right? And I'm a paraphrase because I don't remember the exact quote, but in essence said that if there's going to be a black Messiah, we're going to make him. So what that should tell us is when he said that, now we have to look at everybody from that point on and have a measuring stick of whether they're for us or against us, right? But now, as we see, the enemy has made it their mission to attack and destroy black leadership and what black organizations. And I contend that you are not a leader unless you are an organizer. We're going to go over the 7 primary, from my perspective, qualifications for leadership towards the end. That's the last slide. But what the sister said, the fear caused by this man, J. Edgar Hoover, has caused us to fear having leaders. And what happens is we feel like we put all our eggs in one basket. They can come over and knock that basket over and stomp on it. And then we're back to square one. But when we get to the end, we'll be able to see that what the qualifications of a leader are and how they can, the leader themselves can neutralize that tactic. Right? Now, if you saw my last lecture, you saw information about J. Edgar Hoover that put in a context different from our understanding of him as a person and his relationship with people in our community, which allowed him and motivated him to do the things that he did. There are things within his lineage and within his personal life, which allowed him to attack Marcus Garvey in the 1920s when he was in the Bureau of Investigation, before there was a federal Bureau of Investigation. And that allowed him to ascend to the leadership of the Federal Bureau of Investigation, which allowed him then to implement the counterintelligence program, which has many of our leaders and revolutionaries still locked up here in the 21st century, even though the directive and the attack was done in the late 60s forward. So if there's no fear of black leadership, and if the enemy doesn't feel like we need leaders, why is Mumia Abu-Jamal still locked up? Right? We've had various brothers who've been locked up 30, 40, 50 years. They literally, if they let them out, they let them out on their deathbed. If their voice and their thoughts and their ideas weren't important, if their physical bodies and their spirit in their physical bodies wasn't important, why aren't they just walking around doing lectures, organizing, giving counsel to younger people, spreading their ideas? Why aren't they allowed to do that right now? Your enemy says you need leaders because he attacks them. And then the ones he doesn't attack, he gives you leaders to replace the leaders that he removed from you. Right? Now, y'all stop me when I'm lying. Now, I'm going to discuss this because I hear this all the time, right? What do black people say? The "we don't need leaders" argument is backed by "we just need to get on code." So my question always is, what is the code? Many people, but not all, which is part of the problem, say the code, this is the code. This is Neely Fuller's The Independent Compensatory Code System Concept, a compensatory counter-racist code. It is a code for countering racism. All right. My question is, if we don't have a, let's say, hey, you know what? We don't need leaders. We're gonna use the code. My question is, who is going to implement the spreading of and the teaching of the code if the code is the answer? And then who's going to enforce and make sure that the code is effective? Because if it's not spread and it's not enforced, how can it be effective? And Sister Simone says, that makes sense why I never learned. Hold up. Never learned or heard about the majority of the leaders until high school when I had my own access to outside knowledge for our people. Of course, your enemy is not going to give you the tools for your liberation. And then she says, that's part of the scare tactic. They know if they let them out healthy, they'll come back stronger than ever. Absolutely. And Spirit, Mind, Character, Soul says, same plan evolved over time. Absolutely. And Brother Land says the Attorney General of the Keystone State, along with various law enforcement agencies of that state, are against Abu getting paroled. Abu should have been out years ago. Not only that, he's been proven to be innocent. In my mind, after going through the case and seeing everything that went on, it's pretty clear. I mean, part of it is a vendetta against him because they hated him anyway. But that being said, if they didn't fear him, he would have been out when he was my age. And Spirit, Mind, Character, Soul says vetting is continuous, indeed. So back to the code. The question is, the code in and of itself is static. It was written at a certain point in time. If the tactics of the enemy or the identity of the most important enemy changes, who changes or how does the code change? And I'm asking that question. I'm putting that question on the floor. You see what I'm saying? And I contend, it's just my opinion, it's not to offend anybody, I contend that most of the people who say we don't need leaders, we need a code, are the type of people who don't like to organize with other Black people and also don't like to be beholden with other Black people and aren't part of an organization or community with other Black people. That's my contention. Like I've never heard someone that's in an organization say, "Nah, man, we don't need no leaders. We just need the code." I haven't heard it. By definition, when you're in an organization, there is some person or group looked at as the authority within that organization. It may be one person, it may be 5, it may be 10, it may be 100. Sometimes the people in the organization don't even know who it is. They just see the spokesman and they think that is the person, not knowing there may be, like I said, it may be half a dozen, depends on the organization. Which the most effective organizations, they will go by the old CIA protocol of having people several levels below you who can do your job in the inevitability in a war that someone is captured or killed. That's how the enemy does it. That's from old training manuals that they had from the 70s. Used to be, I don't know if you can still get that stuff online. Used to be able to get that information, old Army manuals and things like that at surplus stores and stuff back in the 90s, early 2000s. I used to have some of that stuff. I lost some of it, unfortunately. But it's worth studying because you get to see their tactics and you get to see how they think and how they operate. And even though what they do will be different now, the thought process is the same. The actual tactics and stuff, the strategies may change a little bit, right? And brother Land says, if we develop a code, those same people that advocate for a code are least likely to follow the code. I hadn't thought of that, but you may be right. I mean, I know some people that advocate for the code that do follow the code. And I'm fine with that. I just feel like after looking at it again and looking at our current situation and then studying the enemy, I was like, well, the enemy has a code, but they also have leaders, right? So, on a very basic surface level, right? The Joint Chiefs of Staff are leaders of white people in America. The president is a leader of white people in America. Business owners like Gates and Zuckerberg, excuse me, are leaders in America, and the owners of these media corporations and things like that are leaders in America. White people are still ruling America. Do you hear white people running around saying we don't need leaders? Now, you might hear them run around and say we need new leaders. They say that all the time, but they don't say we need no leaders. Right? And since they're ruling, we at least might want to look and see what they're doing to see if any of it is applicable and beneficial for us. I'm just saying. Right? Now, next slide. And I thought I would get about an hour and a half in. That's probably where I'm going to be. The enemies, they have a code and they have leaders. In the picture on the left, and I wish I had arranged that better because it looks terrible, but whatever. The picture on the left, who can identify two of those three people in the picture? I'm going to sit here and drink some water, and I'll let y'all put in the comments. Straight Black Friday, Brother Dawood. I don't think I saw you come in, or at least I don't think I greeted you when you came in. While y'all trying to figure out who's in the picture on the left, Brother Dawood says, I think not enough can be said about false leadership installed in the 80s and 90s after the civil rights movement. We're gonna get to that. I'm glad you brought that up though. If you saw my Africa versus Everybody 2 lecture, we talked about that. We talked about that. Unique One Express. Wait a minute, Unique One Express. You gotta did you see the lecture? I think you got a head start. So Unique One Express has given us 2 out of 3. Anybody got the third one? You get the third one, I might have to give you something. I'm gonna be honest. I'll give y'all 10 seconds. That water was so needed in my life. And Brother Lance said, what I meant by my statement was, since we have so many different groups representing our interests, we'd be hard pressed to get those various groups to agree on one set of guidelines. I concur. And one of the reasons why is because of our ongoing schizophrenia. Because everybody that thinks they're representing our interests aren't, because they don't even identify with who we are. It's another discussion. Now, and Brother Dawood says, also, most of the code principles that benefited Black people have been replaced by liberal democratic doctrine. Again, that's 100. Hold up. I'm gonna put that up. Wait. Let me go back. My bad. Let me go back. All right. Here you go, brother. I think not enough can be said about false Black leadership installed in the 80s and 90s after the civil rights movement. That's a like I said, if you saw that lecture, you saw a part of that. There's a very big piece that I'm not gonna give away. Y'all had to wait till I edit it and put it out if you haven't seen it. Now, back to the enemy and their code. Henry Kissinger, staunch Zionist, probably one of the most influential foreign policy people in American history. I would say you need one express say don't put me on the spot. I'm just saying you had a head start on everybody with that. Henry Kissinger, along with Brzezinski, Zbigniew Brzezinski, two most influential foreign policy people in American history. Klaus Schwab admits that he's a student of Henry Kissinger. The third person, by the way, in the picture is Edward Heath, who was the Prime Minister of England at the time this picture was taken, which I believe was in the early 80s. Now, if you've been following me a long time, you know about Klaus Schwab. If you've been following my work and listening to my shows for about the last, I'll say 8 months, you are aware who Klaus Schwab is. For those who don't know, Klaus Schwab is the founder and leader of the World Economic Forum, which is the public face of globalism in the world. The reason I say the public face of globalism is because there's a private face of globalism. And Spirit, Mind, Character, Soul says, as we honor Sankofa, we review what has been established while we continue to build according to our current position on the battlefield. We don't throw away the essence of core values. However, we must maneuver according to today and prepare for the future. Spirit, Mind, Character, Soul. I don't know if you read Bob Berutti's Identity. He talks about that, and he talks about the importance of culture and how culture is something that is adaptable. But however, the core of the culture, the asili of the culture, is something that is not static, but something that is set, so that people, nations, and cultures do not move away from their asili. So the asili of the European is death, domination, and destruction, and it doesn't matter what ethnic group of European it is. It doesn't matter if it's French. It doesn't matter if it's Italian. It doesn't matter if it's Nordic. It doesn't matter if it's Russian. It doesn't matter if it's the Hats. The Hats utilize a different methodology than the French, but their core asili is the same, even though they move and maneuver in different ways. Again, if you haven't read Bob Berutti's book, I highly recommend it. I'm read about 80 something pages, 83, 84, page 83, 84. So I'm about almost a third of the way through that book. And I wanted to have Bob Berutti on, but somebody just interviewed him, and I wanted to read the book before I interviewed him, but someone beat me to the punch. So I don't know if I'm going to do that now or not. I might actually go and look at that interview later and see. I mean, I know it'd be worthwhile, but I just want to see if they covered what I already was going to say or ask, and so we shall see with that. Now, Klaus Schwab, World Economic Forum, Henry Kissinger, staunch Israeli nationalist, Zionist, globalist, and now they have leaders. Klaus Schwab is a leader. He put together, in essence, the biggest, most influential meeting of world leaders in history. And they meet every year, and they set outlines for the future, and they then implement those, and then they send out homework, and everyone shows up, including the President of the United States. Let's review. Klaus Schwab sends out an invitation, and the President of the United States, who is seen as a leader of America, has to go. Trump's, was it 2020? You got to see Trump's 2020. I think it is 2020. You got to see Trump's 2020 speech, and you got to see Zelensky, the Ukrainian president. You got to see his 2019. By the way, you also got to see, it's another video of Zelensky you got to see from when he was younger too, but that's not today's subject. So with that, World Economic Forum, European governments, blah, 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 we have established that the enemies have, right? We agree the enemies have leaders. Do we agree on that? Anybody that disagrees with that, put that on the chat. Now, not only does the enemy have leaders, the enemy has a code, right? Nowadays, right? Every person, even if they don't even if they're not sincere, what do we hear? We always hear black people, and we even hear white people talk about white supremacy, systemic racism, white supremacy, systemic racism, white supremacy, systemic. You hear this incessantly, over and over and over and over and over, right? So we hear that all the time, and we would think that is the code. You want to know what the code is? The code is in that book, The Protocols of Learning, Elders, Design. That is the foundation for the code that moved forward since then. You want to know what the code was before that? The Babylonian Talmud. That was the code. You can disagree with me. I suggest you read the books first before you disagree. If you read that book and then you see, and it's written in a very weird language, and you see what's going on now, you will agree Protocols of Learning, Elders, Design is the code. Seeing it and reading it, because it's written 140 years ago, and then translating it to today is unfortunately not as easy as not as easy as I wish it was. But there are things that are stated so obviously that you can't argue with that because you've seen them implemented. You've seen them play out. The Zionist concept and the Zionist ideal of Theodore Herzl was talked about before it was implemented. Now Israel is a real place. It is a nation state that has been developed. It has been in war and defended itself. It is one of the most powerful nations on earth because it is a nuclear power. That was from planning and strategies, some of which are in the protocols. So the ideas were put in place and we see the real world results. So now there is a nation state for this group of people that is called Israel, and there is a globalist organization called the World Economic Forum, which calls any person they want to come and organize within for the remaking of the world, which is known as the Great Reset, said by Klaus Schwab in 2020. And he said that it wouldn't be possible to implement this if it had not been for C-19. That's a rabbit hole I'm not going to go into today, because when I went into it earlier, YouTube took that and deleted that whole video, come to find out, even though it was private. So, when you get attacked like that, or the information you present get attacked like that, you headed in the right direction. Right? So now we agree that what enemies have a code, enemies have implemented their code, and they've benefited from their code. And we get to see the public face of some of the institutions they built in the name of that code. Are we clear on that? So we have established here that you can have a code and leaders and institutions and organizations. And based on this analysis of our enemy, we have to conclude that that actually is the way forward, or a way forward. And it's something that's been quite effective for the enemy. Now we got to banner running along the screen. You can follow me again on Instagram at dc.radical1, on Twitter at dc_radical_one. The OTW tube is DC Radical 1. And the Cash App you want to donate is $DC Radical 1. Of course, this is the YouTube, capital D, small c, Radical 1. And the email is dc.radical_1 at protonmail.com. Now that I'm finished with all that, let's move forward. And we almost finished. We're toward the end. In fact, no, this is the last slide. This is the last slide. Now, qualifications of a Black leader. 7 essentials, I would say. And anybody that has any other ones after we go through this, you can add to it. And I didn't put these in any particular order. So they're just 7 things that I thought were essential. Like if you don't have these 7, whatever, you're not qualified. Number 1, has a knowledge, that's supposed to be A, not N. So my bad on the grammar. Has a knowledge and understanding of the history of our people from ancient times until now. One of the issues that we have now because of our identity crisis is based in the lack of knowledge of our history of our people from ancient times, meaning before slavery, meaning before European invasion, before Arab invasion, going all the way back to the time even before we can see the clear invasion and influence of the Hyksos into ancient Kemet, which was approximately 3,700 years ago. So a person has to have a comprehensive understanding of our history, our culture, and our traditions for at least the last 4,000 years. We eliminated a whole lot of people right there. Now, y'all tell me, do we understand why that's the case? And y'all tell me if y'all disagree. As I sit here and try to figure out, let's see. Okay. Just want to make sure my computer isn't going to lose power while I'm here. So do we agree on that? Y'all let me know whether or not we agree. Okay. Brother Land says absolute must. Number 2, has a thorough knowledge of our enemies and can identify them and their tactics. We just eliminated a whole boatload of people with this. As I said before, everybody can talk about and identify white supremacy. Very few people can identify Zionist hegemony. Right? Now, Brother Irritated Genie, Straight Black Pride, the Nation of Islam Research Group, myself, but I'm part of Straight Black Pride. I'm trying to think who else. I'm sure there are some other people. I'm trying to think currently, people who have put out information identifying our enemies, their tactics, their strategies, and their effects on us in a way that the people can easily comprehend. A few years ago, when I first did the Africa versus Everybody lecture, the first one, I came to the realization before I did it. My motivation was that we don't think we have enemies. The reason it's important to understand and know you have enemies is because if you don't know you have enemies, you will blame all your failures on yourself and your people without the understanding that someone is opposing you, right? So it's the difference. I'm going to use a sports analogy. If you were playing basketball and you were just shooting around and you were trying to perfect your shot and you were trying different shots and you were missing everything, you would come to the conclusion, you're like, man, I really suck. I can't shoot at all. I need to give this up. Well, how much different would it be if you looked and you could see that there's somebody there who's standing at the rim that's 6'8" and they're just batting away all your shots? Or they're tipping them, or sometimes they're taking them off the rim when it hits the rim. You would then understand that you have one, an opponent. Two, you be able to see the size of the opponent. And three, you be able to adjust your tactics. Suddenly you realize, oh, I got opposition. I'm not as terrible as I thought I was. I have an opponent that's making things much harder for me than they are. How many times have you heard Black people say, N words ain't you know what? Oh, Black people this, Black people that, Black people can't do this, Black people can't do that. Yada, yada, blah, blah, yada, yada, blah, blah. On and on and on to the break of dawn, as they used to say. And Brother Lance says, looking at this list, if we adopted these guidelines, the overwhelming majority of today's leaders would be disqualified. This is why most people don't want a code of ethics. Oh, Brother Lance, about to make you famous. Again, looking at this list, if we adopted these guidelines, the overwhelming majority of today's leaders would be disqualified. This is why most of these people don't really want a code of ethics. I concur with that assessment completely. We haven't even gotten past number 2. Most people don't have a thorough knowledge of our enemies, cannot identify them, nor their tactics. Even though the last slide earlier, showed you some of our enemies and their code. And the funny thing is, you can go to the World Economic Forum and go back and look through stuff that they've said and see it implemented and be like, okay, the enemy I need to pay attention to. They're making things happen. They literally, and I put this in a couple of different videos, they literally had a test run before the pandemic, approximately 10 weeks before the pandemic. All I'm saying is you go to the World Economic Forum site, or you put in Event 201, it comes up and they give you all the information. You can make up that what you will. You think it's a coincidence? Hey, you think it's a coincidence. You think it's strange? I found it very interesting when I saw it. I first put that out. And in fact, that may have been the video that they deleted. Now that I think about it. But they still got it up. Anyway, I downloaded it, but as far as I know, they still got it up on YouTube. That means that they think people are so, I guess they think people are so naive that they can leave it there and then people won't connect the dots, so it doesn't even matter, I guess. So, number 3, fearless. Hey, hey man, look, I'm going to keep it 100. This European Urugu is no joke. I have no idea why my other computer doesn't work. I'm going to assume it was just a random thing because this computer is working. But I wouldn't be surprised in the least if the opposite was true, because I had a much longer list of things and information that I want to put out. Those types of things and tricks and stuff they've been doing for decades, going back to even before the COINTELPRO that we talked about earlier. You could lose your job. We have brother. I know brothers personally lost their employment. Brother Genie, what am I talking about? Brother Genie lost his employment when they found out who he is and what he was doing. You can lose your reputation. You get, I mean, we saw the COINTELPRO. You can come under personal attack. You can be slandered. You can be lied on. You can be locked up. You can have a mysterious heart attack or aneurysm. Stepping up and speaking out, organizing, teaching, training, and resisting evil is not good for your health in a global white domination, Zionist, hegemonic world. It is what it is. We all, black people, especially in America, all have an innate understanding of this at a subconscious level. That's why the black leader and leaders have to be what? Fearless. And Brother Dawood said at our age, we definitely fear a whole lot less. This is what's so funny about what you're saying. To me, the most fearless people are the young people and the old people. At both ends, from an African perspective, you're closer to the ancestral realm. The young people just came from the ancestral realm. The older people are headed to the ancestral realm. And therefore, for two very different reasons, you have less to fear. That's why what the enemy sometimes will do, they're like, okay, well, you're fearless. I'll attack your family. They're not fearless. That's why when you watch these movies with the gangster movies and stuff like that, what do the enemy sometimes do? They're like, oh, you're not going to pay me back. I'm going to kidnap your daughter. I'm going to kidnap your wife. Kidnap your son. We see how, okay, you fearless. You ain't worried about yourself. Cool, fine. All right. We'll attack your weakness. That's how the European thinks. That's why it's important to when you watch these entertainment and stuff like that, to understand that you're looking at the mind of the European. So watching it for entertainment is one thing, studying it is another. Number 4 is this was in the COINTELPRO. Charismatic. You know, black people. There is a large percentage of black people who, if you don't have some charisma, we're not going to listen to you. It doesn't matter how profound what you're saying is. Peace to Black Pearl Inc. I don't think I've seen you before. I'm glad you were able to join us. You have to have some modicum of charisma in order to be able to get black people to listen to what you're saying. That's why Dr. Khaled talks about he gives information and inspiration. That's why he brought levity and fire in the same presentations. Because, I mean, let's be honest. A lot of times, at least when I do, like, so I do presentations and I talk about very heavy stuff, and I can feel the weight of it on people, and the mood change. For like, oh my God, you know. Black Pearl Inc. says been here before. Okay, cool. Glad to have you back. And so you have to have the ability to lighten the mood and to lift the people up, because sometimes the information you give them will weigh them down. So you have to have the ability to alter that mood. Like Dr. Collins said, give information and inspiration. But I think, man, Malcolm X made a quote about that too, but I cannot remember it right now. You'll have to forgive me. It's been a long day. Let's see. Number 5, has the ability to produce more leaders like himself. Remember when I talked about those old army manuals and intelligence manuals where they talk about training people for 3 positions down? Here you go. True leaders make leaders. Even though they should be ahead of the game, there should be people who are along the path and at some point are at least halfway through where they were, so that they can pick up the mantle when that leader is gone. We should, even though you never retire as a revolutionary, let's say, we should be, if we have effective leadership, they should be able to, that's the word I'm looking for. They should be able to pass on the mantle when they get to an advanced age where they're no longer to do the things they can do physically just because of age or health. There should be someone waiting in the wings that can pick up or they can pass the battalion to the what they call the thing, the baton. Y'all know what I'm saying. Pass the baton to, and that person can move, and that person or people can move forward. Mama Marimba Ani is very much a student of Dr. John Henry Clark. Baba Walima Barudi is very much a student of both. And he's been very instrumental in carrying on that tradition and bringing us vital cultural information that we need. And that, I'll be completely honest, without his writings, I would not be the person I am now. Not even close. So that's an example of passing the baton and affecting a whole new group of people. Even though, of course, I was familiar with both Dr. Clark and Mama Rimbani, because Dr. Clark was alive when I got knowledge many moons ago. Let's see. Great organizational skills. Nothing can be accomplished without organization. The root of the word is organic, meaning alive or life. We have some great orators. I could name someone who's a great orator. Phenomenal. I believe sincere. Has not shown very much on that organizational skills department. Part of having great organizational skills is being able to trust people, to being able to delegate authority. So it's a huge part of it. A lot of people struggle with that part. And last on this list, but I'm sure people could come up with more, visionary. The ability to see things before they manifest. The ability to see the enemy's moves even though they aren't readily apparent. The ability to see enemies and to be able to rank them in level of threat. The ability to see the road ahead for our people, even though how we get there is not apparent to anyone involved. We have, I ain't gonna lie, we have very few visionaries nowadays. And if y'all know who they are, I mean, you ain't got to put them in the chat. You can hit me up. So most of y'all have my information. Y'all let me know. But when I look, I see very few visionaries nowadays. And our visionary, or to be visionary for Black people, it has to be outside the confines of European dominated thought. It has to be, as Baba Rudy would say, a sovereign vision for Black African people, which means it has to be outside the confines of Euro domination. You can't have a Black vision that's only limited to the United States of America, because America is New Europe. Your vision has to extend beyond the confines geographically of America and beyond the time frame of the existence of America, both backwards in time and history and forwards in time to the future. Your vision can't be confined by that. Your vision can't be confined by the existence of Europeans. Your history has to go back before their establishment and beyond their existence. Why? Because we existed before they existed, and we don't exist after they're gone. So you have to have that type of vision. Baba Rudy talks about the African tradition of planning 7 generations in advance. That takes vision. So that is the last slide in this discussion on the qualifications. And I would say that other people may be able to look at this and add to it. But to me, these are 7 essentials qualifications of a Black leader. So before we get out of here, I do have a new segment on the channel. The new segment is called Ask DC. And in that segment, I will be answering questions either from the comment section here on YouTube or Instagram, and I will answer those questions in video form. I did the first one already. If you have not watched that, please do me a favor and go watch that. It's up on the channel now. It's a 20-minute video, and the question was, what are my thoughts on polygamy? And I answered that. I feel like I answered it thoroughly. And I think it's a good video. I liked it. I think that you all will enjoy it, even if it doesn't even matter what your position on polygamy is. It's just the thought and ideas that were presented within it. Also, I plan on doing another live stream Tuesday night at 8 o'clock. And that one will simply be entitled, it's either going to be titled, Everyone Hates Black People, or Why Does Everyone Hate Black People? And we're going to talk about a lot of things going on in the world, including what's going on in the Ukraine in regards to Black people. So I think that's one that I think you all will enjoy. And that is in reality, that was kind of a response to Sister Tila Nubia's question that she left in the comments on one of my other videos. And she basically asked why Black people hate it around the world. So we're going to address that to a degree, not to the degree that I would like to, but I feel somewhat limited in this format, because really you could give a class on that. That could be a multi-week class, but we will delve into that subject on Tuesday at 8 o'clock. Also, or not also, but again, let me run back as a reminder. Don't forget, get your tickets Saturday, March 19th, 2 p.m. The live stream will start at 2:30. Dr. Francis Cress Welsing Day Celebration. The Death Rebirth of Goddess Black Woman lecture. Tickets are available via Eventbrite, in person and live stream. Tickets are $20. Keyword Francis Cress Welsing Day Celebration. more information, email straightblackpride_DC@protonmail.com, and that will be held at the SBPM Headquarters at 6490 Landover Road, Suite A1. If you enjoyed this, you will enjoy that so much more. It's so much more in depth. And, for those who have only heard the voice and never seen the face, you get to see the face. You can connect the face with the voice. So with that, brothers and sisters, I thank you all for listening. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Again, you can follow me on Instagram at dc.radical1, on Twitter at dc_radical_ONE, OTW2 at DC Radical1, all one word. The Cash App, if you like to donate, is $DC Radical 1. Of course, this is the YouTube, capital D, small c Radical 1. And the email is dc.radical_1@protonmail.com. Again, I thank you all for your support. Everything y'all support me in with the lectures, the shows, the social media, everything. Appreciate all of that. With that, I say a BB for Hodie and straight black pride.